So, today I'll be continuing with my predict the spread videos, and today I'll be doing Georgia. So, first of all, I do think that Georgia as a team will be just as good this year as they were last year, but I don't think that their record is going to be as good. Mm, So, Georgia's gone 12-0 the last three seasons in a row, and uh, uh, looking at their schedule for this season, it's just going to be really hard for them to do that again. The schedule is uh, obviously much tougher this year than last year. If you take a look at this year's schedule and take a look at their schedule from last year, um, they have a much tougher non-conference schedule than they did last year. Mm, Last year, of course, they have uh, the rivalry against Georgia Tech every year, but other than that one, they just played three non-power five teams, so those were all just easy wins. And this year, in the non-conference, they do play two non-power four teams that will be easy wins, but they play Clemson in the opener, and uh, Clemson mm, will at least be a good team. I don't know if they'll be elite again, uh, but that's going to be one of the biggest non-conference games this season. So it'll be played in Atlanta, Georgia. So it will be a neutral game, but obviously it'll be played much closer to Georgia than Clemson. And uh, how close it will really be will uh, depend on Clemson. Because Clemson last year had uh, their worst season that I've ever seen them have. And if they'd have played last year, Georgia no doubt would have blew them out. But if they can get back to being a really good team, it could be an interesting game. Mm. And then in the conference, they've got a road game against Alabama, which uh, will be really tough still, even uh, though Alabama did lose Georgia's owner, uh, mm, Nick Saban, to a retirement. So the good news for Georgia is they'll at least have a chance in that game now that Nick Saban's retired, because you know that he owned Georgia. Mm, but still, uh, playing in Tuscaloosa is not going to be easy. Uh, and I still think that even without Nick Saban, Alabama's going to be a good team this year. Mm, And uh, they have to play Texas on the road. Uh, Texas is joining the SEC. So that's not really a game that uh, you would want to uh, have to play, even if it's Georgia. Mm. And then they have a road game against Ole Miss, and that will probably be a tough game for Georgia this year. Mm, I know they blew Ole Miss out last year, but uh, Ole Miss is going to be really good this year. I think they're going to be better than they were last year. I'm not just saying that because I'm an Ole Miss fan. Mm, So that's four pretty tough games, probably. The rest of the games shouldn't be that hard for Georgia. And mm, uh, they always take a week off before their rivalry game with Florida. Uh, mm, but they get a good time for their other week off this year. Mm, uh, they're taking it before their game against Alabama. Uh, mm, so that is the good news about their schedule this year. Uh, so now I'll show you my prediction. Uh, so I see 5 games on here where Georgia uh, will be favored by 20 or more points, which is a blowout. Uh, and uh, if you don't know how my point spread scale works, uh, watch the Ohio State video and you'll see. But those games that go in the green, the ones that I think are going to be a blowout spread uh, win for them. Tennessee Tech, Mississippi State, Florida, Massachusetts, and Georgia Tech. Um, mm, and then uh, the games in the blue, uh, mm, where I think Georgia will be favored by 10 to 19 points, or uh, Kentucky, Auburn, and Tennessee. Uh, mm, and then uh, there's one game uh, where I think Georgia will be favored by about a touchdown, 6 to 9 points in the purple at Clemson. Mm, And then there's one game where I think Georgia will be favored by about a field goal, 1 to 5 points, and that's Ole Miss in the pink there. And then uh, Alabama and Texas are the two uh, toss-up games to me. Mm, Really, just because they're mm, on the road. Uh, mm, I do think that right now Georgia looks like a little bit better of a team than uh, both Alabama and Texas. Uh, Of course, if Nick Saban was still coaching, wouldn't have mattered if Georgia was favored by 50 points; they would have lost to Alabama. Uh, but mm, so uh, the Tennessee Tech and Massachusetts games, they'll be favored by like 40 points in both of those. They'll destroy both of them. Uh, mm, and m- uh, Mississippi State uh, will probably uh, be in the low 20s uh, for the spread. Uh, and then the same for Florida. They'll probably be favored to beat them by somewhere in the low 20s. Mm, mm, because I know this is a big rivalry game, the Georgia Florida game, but I know I haven't done a Florida video yet, but I'll go and tell you Florida's going to be horrible this year. Uh, they only won 5 games last season, and it would be a great season for them this year if they were able to win 5 games. They'll be lucky if they win 4 games. They're going to be so bad. Georgia should beat them easily. Mm, and Georgia Tech will probably also be in the low 20s uh, mm, because they're a team that's getting better and probably isn't going to be terrible, but Georgia's still just so much better than Georgia Tech. Mm, and then uh, right now, I would say that uh, mm, with it being on the road, Georgia will probably be about a 17-point favorite against Kentucky. Uh, if that was a home game for Georgia, it'd probably be in the green. Uh, mm, and then Auburn, I would say uh, they'll probably be favored to beat them by about 14 points, 2 touchdowns. And the same for Tennessee. I'd say Georgia will be about a 14-point favorite against them. Mm, mm, And mm, Ole Miss right now, uh, mm, mm, because it's on the road, I'd say Georgia will be about a 3-point favorite. Uh, because is much as Georgia beat Ole Miss by last year, even though I think Ole Miss might even be a better team than Alabama this year, uh, mm, I don't think that Vegas is gonna make that a toss up or Georgia an underdog in it. Mm, So that will be it with this video, and thanks for watching. And please subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back with another video like this soon.